actually think we can continue the conversation. So this is going to be bonus kind of behind the scenes addition conversation, because as you were talking about sort of that Midwestern charm and coming from the South and difference, I think there's stuff that we can dig into a little bit. I love to just talk about it. And even at the end when you talked about the difference of this little town called Chicago within the state of Illinois, and there being such a very real difference to what Chicago is relative to the rest of the state. And I think people even forget that Chicago is in Illinois. I think they think it's its own state by itself, and it probably could.
Yes, it could be.
Because even I think as a Chicagoan, I don't say, oh, I'm from Illinois, I'm from Chicago.
Right.
I don't often identify with the state, as most other people will say, I'm from Texas, I'm from Mississippi, Florida, versus, the city they're from is not their first thing to say. And most Chicagoans are like, oh, I'm from Chicago. And if you say that, you just assume people know what it is.
You assume, because most people know Chicago all across the world. People know Chicago.
But something you said, I think, that popped in my head, and you're talking about sort of the charm and sort of what is lacking or knowing any different, at least for me, like not seeing it. I've heard people say, like, there really isn't that Midwestern charm. Like, what is it? And you brought something up of like, like in the South, the gentleman will open the door and all this. And here is very different. Like, most guys will not open the door for you. And if they do, they're going to do exactly what they typically do, is they'll go in and they'll hold the door for you, and you still have to hold it yourself. And like, as I think just culturally for me, it's definitely more of like, you need to open the door for me, let me in. And I still expect the guy to offer to pay. Like, you still...
Don't get me started on, okay, I'm going to let you finish. But yes.
No, but I think we can dig into that, because you brought it up. And, like, I think, like, I think there's some things I'm very traditional on. Like, I still expect, if I'm with a guy, like, at least for you to offer to pay. Maybe I will let you pay for me, but I still expect, you invited me to this nice dinner.
You know what? It don't even matter who invited who for the first few days. That's like, and this is just me. I'm sure there are people in the comments that have their own preference, but it's a preference. And I just think for the first few dates, for a man and a woman, at least, that the man should pay. Now, if you develop a relationship, of course, a relationship is give and take. So at that point, you pay for some, he pay, and you divide it amongst however you feel. But I feel, regardless of who asked who out, the first date, especially the first date, the man should pay. And if he doesn't pay, like, I'm not doing a second date. But I'm like, where are you from? Where were you raised?
Where are your manners?
Where are your manners? Like, no. And it's just the thing too. It's just like, there's so many layers here, Lyzeth. There's so many layers here with this. And I think we're going to run into the whole feminist thing too, which, I'm a feminist too in my own right. And I think in this sense, it's just like knowing your worth. And just even beyond that, and like I said, it's just simple manners. And, like I said, and then, of course we run into the cultural things too. Different cultures do things differently too. But where I'm from, the man pays the first round. And like, as soon as the thing flops,
when they bring you your bill.
When the bill comes,
yes,
it drops down there, I'm not touching it. I'm not touching it. And if I have to not touching it, I'm like, I'm not seeing you again. This is not kosher, man. Like, no.
No, I think there's a level of expectation for me. Like, if I'm on a date, like, I am one of those girls that expects the guy to pay. And if you have an issue with that, then we can part our ways. Like, that's
exactly
fine and dandy. Exactly. Like, I have guy friends who will, for the most part, always pick up the bill if I go to dinner with them. And I'm like, at that point, like, because we are friends, I will always offer to pay. Like, I can pay half. But like, most of the time, like, no, I got it. And I'm like, okay. I'm not gonna take that blessing away from you and me.
I can't deal with you. I'm not taking the blessing away.
I won't take your blessing or my blessing away. That's girl, you know me. I will always bring it back.
You will be like, that's your blessing. So
That's your blessing. Because you blessed me, someone's gonna bless you.
Someone's gonna bless you. Yeah.
That's the way Jesus works, and you know me and Jesus.
I do. But I mean, I agree. I think that and I've gone on a few dates here. I would say, when I first moved here to Chicago, I was popping, honey. I was having dates. First few, like when I was in grad school, when you don't have the time for it. And, I would say it was the majority of guys did pay. And obviously the ones who didn't, I don't remember because they are not relevant. I don't remember. But yeah, that's just, like I said, that's my thinking, and it is traditional in a sense. Like I said, I do have some traditional values, and that is one of them. Like, open the door for me, pay the bill. I want to be treated like a lady that I am.
Yeah, and I, if I'm ever at a date or something, like, I would want them to open the car door, close, like, there's just, I was like, I think as time progresses, fine, I think things kind of like, okay, at one point, but I can open the door for myself. Like, I think I can do that. Like, You've shown me that you have manners. You've shown me you know how to treat me right, and that's fine. Like, I can open my own door. But I think even then, like, if I went to a store, you better open that door for me, though. Like,
girl, it's so funny you say this, because you were talking about the car door thing. I went on a date with a guy. We went to get some tacos in like Wicker Park, and we were just walking to get to know each other. And I feel like I knew this but didn't know this. So I was walking on the outer edges and he was in. And so he was like, let me switch places with you, because he wanted to walk on the outer edges, because that is a traditional thing where, like, the woman walks closer to the inside or, near the building, and he walks on the outer edges. I guess in an attempt, if something happens or oncoming, he takes the brunt of it instead of her. And I was like, oh my God.
I didn't know about that probably until like 7 years ago, where I currently work at. One of my coworkers would constantly do that when we would be walking to like lunch or something. And I'm like, and he's an older guy, and like, I was like, what? And finally I was like, why are you always switching spots? Because it would always be, if I ended up to the side of the road, like where the traffic was, he'd always like, well, and I'm like, why did he's like, if you ever meet a guy and the guy never does this, you should just let him go. Like, dump him. He's not worth your time. And I'm like, why? He's like, because any guy, any true gentleman would know that they have to walk to the side of where the incoming traffic is, because if anything was to happen, they would take the brunt of it just to protect the woman. And I was like, so ever since then, any guy, whether they're a potential, partner or whatever, their friend, whatever, if they're not, I tell like my guy friends, I'm like, you're supposed to walk on this side.
Thank you.
I was like, I don't care if you're just my friend, like, you're supposed to take the brunt of this. And some friends are like, okay, cool, whatever. And others are like, I'm not doing that. Like, you wanted equal rights. I was like, it has nothing to do with equal rights. Okay?
Nothing to do with it.
Like, let's not even get it. We can't even get into that. That will take us into like 30 minutes of a conversation. This is supposed to be bonus material.
And this is the whole thing. Equal rights, affirmative action. People, and it's always white men who are saying this shit. And it's like, you have never felt any difference because you've lived in your white world the whole time. You don't know. You talking about equal rights. Everything has been equal for you just because of the color of your skin. So you don't know. And of course, you're going to argue about it. But I think they say, oh, women y'all fought for this and that. You say shit like that, you don't get it. That you just don't get it. And don't get me wrong, like, all women may not want that. But then I think that's fine. That's a preference.
And now I hear more like Black and brown men saying things like that, of like, well, you all wanted equal rights. So, and I'm like,
yeah, I've never heard it from a Black or brown man. I only heard it from white dudes.
I've heard from a few. And I'm like,
people comment about this in the section. Comment, like,
yes, somebody in your like circle of friends that says something about you, about just throwing back, like, well, you fought for equal rights, you wanted equal rights, and you can't demand something. Just let us know. Let us know if you have from a person of color, particularly men.
Yeah.
Because I've had one or two, and I'm like no, that's not the way it works. Like, I'm like, that's not the way rights work.
It's not the way it works. And it's like, you said, like I said, you say that you don't get it. We're talking about equal in pay, equal with jobs. What the fuck does this have to do with you standing on the outside of the curb for me? That's not what this is about.
Opening the door for me.
Opening the door, paying the bill.
Just manners.
That's manners. That is manners.
When I open the door for an elderly person.
Exactly. I open the door for my grandmother. I let her go first. Like, open the door for my father.
Or I let them cut in front of me at the line of the store because they have like 3 items. I have a cart full. I was like, please.
They have 2, 3 items. Yes. That's common courtesy.
That's just, being nice.
That's being nice. And I think a lot of people have that confused nowadays. Like, being nice, common courtesies. Like, you can be an asshole, but still have common courtesies for people, Or maybe not.
Clearly, some people don't.
Maybe not. Maybe that's one of the many things that make you an asshole.
We're just keeping it real, people.
Yeah.
Real here.
Maybe.
Well, thank you. I really wanted to dig in a little bit into that because as you were talking, I was like, oh no, I want to let her finish her perspective and her thing. But I think
it's a question. I like that one. That Midwest charm versus Southern hospitality. I think that is a question.
And I'd be curious. Like, I haven't had the opportunity to visit a lot of other Midwestern states and cities. But I'd love to just be able to know like what that feels like and what that is outside of Chicago, even within Illinois. Like, if you want to dig in a little bit into that, like I have gone down southern Illinois, and it's a very different scene. Very, there's some of their flags are a little different.
We don't even talk about that because Mississippi still has the rebel flag as a part of it. Side note that the SEC, which is Southern Eastern Conference, which is like the number 1 to be in terms of college football. You want to be SEC. Everybody want to be SEC because we're the shit. But besides that, the article, I think I posted about on my Instagram. I was saying that the SEC is considering not having events in Mississippi because they still have the Confederate flag. I was like, yes, SEC, do it. Do it. I'm sorry, Mississippi, not sorry, but you take the flag down. People's like, well, my family worked hard for this. What about other people's families?
And I also think, like, nobody's saying that your family didn't work hard for
this. Nobody's taking your heritage away.
Nobody's taking that away. I think they're taking that symbol from a very public forum to take it to your private. Like,
why does it need to be the state flag?
And I think that's the big thing. And I mean, most of Illinois would probably be considered more of a red state than a blue state if it was. And I think that's a whole other. We would probably have a whole episode about that. And I think that Chicago, just by its makeup, it's a huge city, and it's made up of mostly liberals and. Definitely more towards a blue city than a red one, and it really carries the state when it comes to blue. Like,
it does. And I think going back to what you touched on a little bit earlier, you were saying it, probably outside of Chicago, but some of the other Midwest states, they might have some of that Midwest charm. I haven't really. I've ventured out to a few states, but it's been for like specific reasons I've gone out there. But they may have some of that. It may just be Chicago that's lacking.
Yeah. But thank you. Thank you for joining us for this bonus content. If you have any comments, please share them below. Any questions about what we addressed in this little kind of mini series in between our mini series.
I know between the miniseries.
Yeah. We'd love to just get to know what you all want to know and hear more from you. And we will see you next time. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed. We hope to join and click on that bell so you get notified when a new video pops up on our feed. So thank you for joining us, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.